We've got some fresh
Hey,
new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing
I'm
some things that I
Luis.
know
And you're
you
listening
haven't
to the
heard
Content is
before.
Profit podcast.
And we spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit.
If you'd like to learn how to turn that content into profit, just go to contentisprofit.com. There's a little surprise in there for you.
Oh yeah, juicy surprise.
Juicy.
But today, it's all about building a six. I was about to say a seis in
A
Spanish,
seis.
but yeah.
Huh, that's
We're
good,
gonna leave the
that's good.
Spanglish for after. Building a six. Oh my gosh, a seis again. Building a
job, Fonzie.
six-figure business with less than 1,000 followers. That's when you can tell I've been speaking way too much Spanish in the weekend.
Or we can be like building a sexy business.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
those not getting it, that's sexy in kind of like Spanglish-ish. I don't know.
Sexy indeed.
Yeah,
Let's go. Let's
sexy
keep going
indeed.
with this.
All right. With that said, guys, go ahead and follow the podcast in your favorite platform, and also go ahead and follow us on social media at BIZBROS. Go when you see all those golden boulders every single day are
Yes.
coming to you with so much value that you can implement today.
That is right. And if you find today's episode impactful, if today's guest helps you move one step forward closer to your goal, and you know of somebody that today's guest can help them move closer to their goal, please share this episode with them, and don't forget to leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Happy Monday! Today we have an incredible guest that will fill you up with inspiration to tackle any challenge you may face. Are you struggling with finding success? Do you believe the odds are stacked against you? Then today's conversation is just for you.
That is right, my friend. Today's guest is great at showing others that success is possible if you are willing to invest and trust the process. She defeated the odds that were stacked up against her. Let me tell you, her story is incredible.
Baby.
And now it's your turn to be successful.
She has also built 2 successful online businesses while raising her 2 daughters. Talk about impact. And for those social media skeptics, she built a 6-figure nutrition and fitness company with less than 1,000 followers. Can't wait for this.
Hashtag juicy. Please welcome badass entrepreneur, Ashley Fillmore.
Hey!
Welcome, Ashley.
Hey guys, I am so excited to be here, and what an epic introduction.
Well, thank you.
Wow.
I gotta say, I feel like today at the beginning I was a little off. Something tells me that I was a little off.
A little off? I mean.
But Ashley, we really appreciate it. That's what Content is Profit is all about. We do this show live to show people that it's okay to make mistakes. We just gotta roll with them, right?
Right, exactly. And you haven't even had coffee yet, so that's exactly what's going on here.
I think that was the issue. That was the issue.
We found the problem, Ashley. Thank you so much for being here, Ashley. I'm so excited to have this conversation. You caught up a little bit with FONZI a few days back, and he's been like raving about you since. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to chat. So, Ashley, why don't you share with us a little bit of your backstory? How your journey started? Why entrepreneurship? Why online business? Like, what was that bug inside of you, and how do you go about it?
Right. So my journey started over a decade ago. I was in college and knew immediately that I wanted to help people. I knew that I wanted to help people. And so instantly my initial thought was, I'm going to start working for an amazing company. The gentleman I started working for, he was actually a new entrepreneur himself, and I was his first employee. This was really amazing because I literally watched him build his brick and mortar gym. Over the years of working for him, I worked there for 8 years. I was the head nutrition coach and personal trainer there. So I actually learned a lot of great things about starting my own business. I learned a lot of great things to do and a lot of great things to not do. And it was a really great experience, but I realized really quickly that I was trapped. And what I mean by that, he was a wonderful person. I learned so much and grew so much from working there. But I realized that my income, the hours I worked, everything was ultimately controlled by him. And I remember being there about 8 years. I was 12 weeks pregnant with my first daughter in 2015. And Suddenly, I get called into the office and he says that my salary at that time was going away. My health benefits would also be going away, that he was changing some things in his company. And, ultimately, I was going to be left to just figure these things out on my own. I was devastated and in tears, but I felt like that was the straw that I needed to just break the camel's back practically.
Yeah.
And so then, things really started moving for me. But I will say that I've always been one to stay. Just to be in the same circumstance. Change has always been hard for me before starting my own company.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'll stay unhappy just to be comfortable.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a powerful phrase. I'll stay unhappy just to stay comfortable. Can we dive into that a little bit? Because I feel like that might be a point where, people wanting something better, like they'll recognize that, right? And they'll be like, no, like I'm willing to be uncomfortable now and move forward to go and reach what I want, right? And then some people might be like, I'm comfortable here. Like, talk to us through that decision making for you. Like, what was that thing that kind of pushed you over the edge and be like, I need to do something more?
Yeah. So a lot of things were changing. And I realized too, along this journey that, I was working a lot. Although I was working more, pushing myself more, having more clients, my income wasn't increasing. I was very much limited by the time I could take off. A lot of things were moving in his company and he was doing things in a way that I wouldn't necessarily do. It's not that it was bad. It just wasn't the way that I wanted to work with clients.
Yeah.
And so lots of little things were adding up. But I think when I was caught into his office and suddenly, literally, it was like, the rug was being ripped from underneath me, I was forced to change. Because for me, even if it was miserable, not anymore, not the new version of Ashley, but the old version, if I was unhappy, as long as I was comfortable and I felt like things were safe, I would stay in that circumstance. And a lot of that really roots back to my upbringing and everything. Nothing was predictable. My life was, growing up was very stressful and I had a very, very rough upbringing. And so for me, comfort was really what I was searching for, even if that meant being unhappy.
Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting, right? I feel like we live in, especially this moment in society, where it's about the comfort, right? It's like, how can we maximize that comfort and be always in this safe spot? But then, entrepreneurship is all about taking risks and going out there, right? How was that leap for you? Because I'm sure there was a huge change, internal change for you when you started taking on those risks, when you decided to say, yes, I'm gonna go and build my own thing. How did that, what was that change for you internally?
Yeah, it was a big change. Well, I was really uncomfortable and I was really scared. I remember lots of tears and wondering if I made a really bad choice. So in 2015, I actually thought I wanted my own brick and mortar gym. And so that was my intention. So when I first started my own company, I was training people out of my garage, their garage, local gyms. I mean, anywhere you can think of. And I thought that I wanted to go in that direction. And then 2018 is when I really had a big shift, which was almost as scary as leaving my comfortable job, corporate job almost, into, saying, okay, I want a brick and mortar. And then I realized the cost associated with having a brick and mortar, right? The expenses. And I started adding up the hours I would have to work to just pay rent and utilities, having a family, wanting to have another child. I just didn't feel like it was possible.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, that's when I actually said, I am going to go 100% all in on my online business. And so I've been in the online space now for a little over 2 years. And so just hit, January 2019 was the big year. Thank you. I was very scared. I'm still scared, but I do not allow that emotion to prevent me from taking chances or doing things to level up at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. First of all, 2019, the beginning of your online journey, that is amazing. I can only imagine, you were 1 year in when like craziness, madness happened too, So I'm extremely curious, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with, everything that happened in the last year with only 1 year, and I'm doing air quotes here, of previous experience in the online world? Or at the same time, what were some of those challenges in 2019 that led you to grow and put you in a position, right, to take on 2020?
Yeah. So being an entrepreneur is a total roller coaster ride for me. And it's something that no one prepared me for. And I will say when COVID hit, let's just say that roller coaster ride got really intense. And for me, just seeing the fluctuation in programs. And, I remember when here where I live in Virginia, around the beginning of March, things shut down almost instantly. I saw a lot of cancellations come through on programs because people were losing their jobs. Stress was high. At the same time, I'm a mother. I have at this time, a 2-year-old, almost 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And, I am stressed out about my kids' safety, my safety, everything shut down. And then also as an entrepreneur, I feel like, I'm feeling the stress and seeing people canceling programs, but I also felt like it was an opportunity for me to stand in the front and say, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to show up even more for my clients.
Yep.
I always try to over deliver, but even more so now. And I will not let this stop me. Yeah. And so there were tons of pivoting moments. Product launches, I switched around. I changed things. I changed price points of things. But ultimately, I didn't cancel a launch. I continued to do everything as I normally would, just made some modifications along the way. Yeah. And looking back in this past year, so my first year, business was great in 2019, but in 2020, I literally doubled my revenue again.
Wow.
Yes. Congrats.
So it was, in a way, it was my most successful year yet.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Sorry, I feel like you have a question at the tip of your tongue.
Well, it's not really a question. It's, what an incredible story that you're sharing with us, right? Mm-hmm. Because, we started the show in the middle of the pandemic too, and that for us was a turning point in our business that allowed us to expand, to have team members that we never had before in the last 4 years of working, and it was incredible to kind of change perspective and see it as an opportunity, right? And we encounter these moments where we need to do that mental shift, right? And it might seem very painful, and it might be like, oh man, it might make you wonder what other options do I actually have here. And I love that you stay true to what you do, to your customers, to the value that you provide to them, and it got reflected on the growth of your business, right? And that's incredible. And I think that's a lesson that we all need to take with us, because that's when we really test it, right? Like, is this really something that we can continue doing? And you showed it, right? And it was incredible. So I just wanted to highlight that, because I feel like every entrepreneur or every person that's listening to the show might feel identified with that exact situation. Maybe not related directly to the pandemic, but moving forward, there's going to be different elements, different things that are coming from the outside world, like different things that we cannot control. And then we can only control what we do, right? And move forward. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good highlight. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you and your brother right now.
Wow.
Ashley, wow. I'm kidding. Ashley, I'm curious. Let's talk a little bit of growth mode in your business. Because 2 years and double in your business in 2020, that sounds incredible, first of all, right? And I'm sure a lot of people listening are asking themselves, how did she do it, right? And often here we have this point of view where we attack sometimes the tactics and strategies, where it's don't focus just on the how-to, but on the principles and foundations. So if things change, you have the power yourself to build your own stuff. So what are some of those principles that guided your growth when it comes to your online business?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I've done a lot of reflecting over the last couple of years about, what have I really done and how I've created, a business that I'm incredibly proud of and something that I know is going to continue to grow at this point. And I will tell you that everything I do, and I'm really sincere about this, actually looking into the next year, I'm going to be starting to offer some business coaching, and I'm really trying to double down on exactly what it is. And so for me, a big part of this is that I'm a coach at heart. And so becoming an entrepreneur was something that was very new for me because I did not go to school for this. And I didn't even realize I was going to be in the online space.
Yeah.
But being a good coach, knowing my content, knowing, I'm in the health and fitness business. So ultimately, when it comes to my specialty, my niche, which is metabolic health. So I help women recover from metabolic damage and lose weight in a sustainable way. And so for me, step one was really being comfortable with what I was teaching and the content I was delivering. And it was really easy. And it always has been really easy for me to deliver high quality content. But I will say the first thing is it comes from a place of love and truly wanting to help make a difference. Although I'm not going to deny the fact I have children, I have a family, I have to make an income, right? Yeah. But the numbers never motivate me in that way. What motivates me is making a bigger impact. I am so passionate about what I do, and I am so passionate about my approach that I'm 100% confident that it will change someone's life. My mission is to get that in front of as many people as I possibly can. And if I'm doing that in the correct way, I'm going to attract people that really want to work with me. And so it's being really clear about what you stand for, what you don't stand for, what is your approach. I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're afraid to draw our line in the sand. We're afraid people are going to, be turned off by us. But honestly, you want to draw your line in the sand. Yeah. And so those two things is what has transformed my business. And now I have a team and, the things we're looking to create this coming year and where things are going to go. I mean, I never thought this was possible, especially not where I came from.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the intention behind it, the passion behind it, right? And I guess this is an invitation for those that are listening right now to ask themselves, right? Am I passionate? Like Ashley is passionate of what she's offering to the world, because when you're driven by that, then you're gonna literally be seeking out to help people, and that's just gonna attract the right person. I don't know. Do you have a question? Because I have a follow-up question to this.
Go. All
right. My follow-up question to this, Ashley, is like, I'm curious. A lot of people would be very skeptic on the sense of, we kind of mentioned this in the intro. Oh, but you can only make money if you have a big audience, right? You can only make money if you have a big following. Yet you prove the contrary to this. So I'm curious, how do you go about doing this? How do you go about nurturing these relationships, nurturing the people that are following you to turn them into customers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So step one is I do think that there's definitely a lot of strategy to this. And one of the first things I did very early on in 2019, actually, my introduction to the online space and going on all in was investing $10K into a mastermind. At that point, I was making nowhere near $10K a month. Actually, I was still generating most of my money from in-person clientele. And I was doing maybe like sending a PDF workout program online, but that was as far as my online coaching went. I wasn't making a lot of money. I mean, again, coming from where I worked, making, let's say $40,000, not saying that's not a lot of money to some people, but for me, that was like a huge amount of money. So when I went into training people in my garage and different places, I just wanted to break even. And so when I went into the online space, I was barely making a couple of $1,000s a month. And I invested $10,000 in business coaching. I was shaking when I transferred that money over via PayPal invoice because it put me on the hook so much. Here's what that did for me though. First off, it made me show up. I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old daughter I had to take care of, along with building a business from nothing. I had no Instagram following. I had no Facebook following. I had no, connections at that time. I had to invest at that time, a lot, over, triple my income to learn how to become an online entrepreneur and actually have my business become more successful. So that was step one. Through that mastermind, my first mentor, she was great. She taught me the basics, as in how to post, how frequently to post, how to really niche down, and then ultimately paying her forced me to show up, and showing up consistently. When you are an expert in your field, you know exactly what you're talking about, which is key. You have to know what you're talking about, and have a lot of passion. And then when you get that strategy along with those two things, I mean, to me, that's a done deal. And so then it was taking my ability and decade plus worth of coaching in person and being able to transfer that online, because I've been a coach for so many years. So that wasn't a new skill set I needed to learn. It was, how do I take this business from nothing and grow it into something? So the strategy and posting consistently, creating offers, creating a page so your potential customers could go to and see what your offers were, and starting to be more strategic about what I was doing and having a plan was a game changer.
First of all, thank you for sharing that, because we've seen across the line with the amazing people that we've been able to bring onto the show that is a constant, right? Like people investing in themselves and people investing in a coach, in a mentor, in somebody that will push you, right? And we have a similar story. We had, like, in 2019, right, fall 2019, that's when we made our first massive investment, right? Like, it was like, for us, was a $25K offer, and we had nowhere near that amount of money, right? We had to, like, figure out how we're gonna come up with that money, and financing plans and all kind of stuff, right? And we're like, okay, well, we're gonna make it happen. And I think you mentioned something that is super important, which, like, it made me show up, right? And for us, that was the thing. Like, we like to say, like, it put us between the wall and the sword, right? And we have to move if we want to get out of that situation, and we have to go execute, right? And that got the gears running and made us make it happen, right? So I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs starting need to find, that one mentor that they're gonna show up for and pay for it, right? You have to actually make that investment, physical investment of putting money in their pocket, and then hold them accountable, right? Like, do your homework. Obviously, don't pay anybody that you might not, like, follow or see results from. But if you find that one person, make that commitment, and you're gonna see that in a year from that moment, if you take action, you're gonna be years ahead of if you would have tried it by your own. So thank you so much for bringing that in here. Now, sorry, a
little parenthesis here. We often talk about shortcuts and stuff like that, how do the right thing, right? But I truly believe the only, like, shortcut is investing in the right people when you're trying to grow your business. It's like, okay, who has done what I'm trying to do? Let me find that person and invest in that person, so that person can cut off my learning curve by maybe like 80%.
Yeah. So actually, when you made that investment, right, you mentioned different things in here, from the very basics of even posting something online, right, creating your own cadence. Like, how do I actually create content for my specific market, right? Like, for us, we found our way, which is through the M2M and through the show and the things that we do after, right, the show. You clearly have your own cadence and your systems, right, in place. How important those systems that of coming up with these topics, or the things that you're going to say, that you're going to share, how important was that for you? How was that process of figuring that one out? Because for us, it took us years to get to the point that we're now, like from the day that we even started, right? Our social accounts transitioned so much onto what it is now, and we found a very effective flow. And for us, we're very big fans of high volume for different reasons, right? And we're constantly testing different things. How was that process for you, not just on the posting side of things, but also on the transition to the sales conversations?
Yeah, so it took a lot of time for me to find my groove and fall into step. But I will say from day one, I always, although I had mentors and business coaches, and, you know, when I was in my mastermind, I was around a lot of other amazing entrepreneurs that were literally crushing it in this industry. And I will say that although I learned from them and took notes, ultimately it came down to figuring out what would work well for me.
Yeah.
Because for your business to be successful, you have to be sustainable. What you're doing has to be sustainable. If it's not sustainable, it's like, you know, running a marathon, right? If you sprint the first 10 miles and you're really not prepared for it, you're probably going to burn out by the time you get close to mile 20, or maybe not even that far along. And so for me, it's always been, this is my life. I'm a mother. I have very small children. I'm a wife. I have some big competing priorities on my day-to-day time and energy demand. Yeah. And so for me, it was finding a routine that worked well. And so I took notes, but ultimately I fell into step with what worked well for me. When it comes down to the content, I have so much, even still to this day. I've probably posted almost daily for over 2 years now.
Yes.
There is so much more that I want to share. And so again, that comes from the passion that I have so much education and information to offer, but it's breaking it down into bite-sized pieces for my audience to understand. Yeah. And so for me, that was really big. It was coming back and saying, you need to speak on your customer's level. You know, yes, they want to know you're educated. They want to know you, have helped a lot of people, but you want to speak on their language is how I like to say it, and you want to go about it in a way that makes sense for your business. So for me, and probably with a lot of us that have online companies, we're launching programs and products. Well, one of the things I always think about is, what are you launching? What's coming up? What product are you offering? And your content should really start to steer in that direction.
Yeah.
If you're going to be launching, let's say, a nutrition and fitness program, you probably don't want to talk about mindset exclusively leading up to that launch. You want to start steering that conversation in why working out's important, why eating healthy is important. Yeah. And that is how I've started to shift as my business has grown, and now that I'm launching programs and have different offers for my audience.
That's so cool. I love frameworks, right? Like I love when people find and discover their frameworks and continue to improve on those, right? And I think it's so important because that's gonna allow us, or the entrepreneur, right, to think less about how to do it and just go execute it, right? Because then you're putting it through that lens of the framework. I'm like, perfect. Like if it fits, it moves forward, right? If it doesn't fit, let's find something that fits, right? And moves forward. And then it gives us that mental capacity to play and try different things as well, right? So I'm sure like throughout your journey, you've found things that work, things that don't work, right? And then you've adapted, right? And the fact that you have been consistent every single time is super, super important. So loving all of this. Yep. Ashley, thank you so much.
I love the steering the conversation piece of it. I think that is very, very important because yes, a lot of times is, people think on what do I need to post? And, we've been teaching this to some people as well when they're trying to get in creator mode, is like, go with what happened in your day-to-day, right? Like tell those stories, like share what's happening in your life and then move past, like what is the lesson in there? So that being said, when you're talking about steering the conversation, I like it because now if we add this element, you have an objective in mind though. So it's like, okay, I have this story. How can I connect it to that objective, that place where I want to take them, right? The people that I'm teaching, that I'm helping. So I think that is so, so important. And some people miss that completely. They just think it's about posting. They just think it's about showing up consistently. And I think the intention behind it is key, is extremely important. How do you line up your launches with these topics, these conversations? How do you make them? How do you steer these conversations towards those launches? Do you have a process around that?
Yeah, so usually what I try to do is whatever I'm launching, I will steer the conversation in that direction and share relevant stories from myself, personal stories, client stories, or even research based off of what I'm talking about to support really what I'm offering, my offer, whatever that offer may be. Again, I'm in nutrition and fitness, so everything I talk about is sustainable fat loss and weight loss, metabolic health, so how your metabolism plays a key role in your ability to lose weight, maintain the weight loss. And so all of the offers I have is really geared around that. I will say, first off, for those of you that maybe have under 1,000 followers, I have a little over 1,000 now, but still not a whole lot. When you're first getting started in the online space, maybe your offer will be one-on-one coaching. For me, that's what my first offer was, because I didn't have the audience size to support, let's say, a large group coaching offer or a cheaper DIY. So for example, if I would have launched a DIY program costing $30, for me, at my audience size, if I sold 10, that still wouldn't be, a significant or a decent amount of money based off of the time and energy I put into it. So for me, I always played it really smart in the sense of assessing where I was with my audience size, my email list. Again, in 2019, I started at 0 practically on all platforms.
Yeah.
And so I had to build up. My first offer was one-on-one. And then when I got to the point of creating, now I have a digital course, I have a DIY program I launched. And so I had the demand and the desire from people reaching out to me saying, hey, what you're doing is amazing. I can't afford to invest in one-on-one. Do you have anything else? And so when people started to come to me on a consistent basis and ask that, it was a lot easier for me to say, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to start thinking of that next offer. So when I first got started, my content, the strategy about what I talked about was 100% focused on one-on-one coaching, what values in the one-on-one coaching, what specifically am I going to do? A lot of times we assume that our consumer understands what voice messaging is, or Voxer, or frequent emailing. They may not necessarily see the value in that. It's our job to show them and teach them the value. When I started to do that, things started moving in my company. But at first, I would just say, you get all of these amazing features, assuming that everyone knew how much value is in that. No one knew. Yeah. And so I struggled. And then about 10 months into my first year, everything switched for me because I started to explain things in a way that my consumers would understand, and also actually explain what each item was. And then that built up that one-on-one coaching roster. So it was all intentional. And being very strategic about, what am I offering? What are they getting? Showing testimonials and social proof, showing that I'm the expert, connecting with them. And then again, actually breaking down what they're getting versus just listing it all out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is so important. And one of my favorite parts here that you just mentioned was listening. Just listening and having conversations with the people that you're trying to help, because often we miss that, right? And we are like, oh, they need this. I know they need this, right? And it might look amazing in our eyes, but we need to relate to them, right? We need to empathize with the people that we're trying to help and figure out what are their actual problems. And if the solution actually sounds good for them, to move forward. And I love how you started receiving that feedback and then started building, kind of like your product suite out of that feedback that you're receiving from these people. I think that is incredible. And when we talk to people about content, the first thing that we tell them is, how many conversations are you having through your content, right? Like, are you actually talking one-on-one to people at first? And I remember it was Adam Scheibel that we have here in the podcast, super incredible guy. And he said, most people miss the point when they have a small following, right? Like, you have an opportunity right there. You have an opportunity to connect individually with each one of the people that are following you, right? And that's amazing. If you have 1 million followers, you probably can't do that. It's going to be extremely challenging on your time to reach out individually to each one of the people that are following you. But if you have a small following, as soon as somebody follows you, guess what? You can grab your phone, send them a voicemail. Hey, how are you doing? Thank you so much. What piece of content resonated with you? You know, how can I help you further? What are your goals? What are your pains? And start to get to know them. And that is honestly the best way to, you know, paint your customer avatar picture, right? Everybody always talks about the customer avatar. And I think it's a good exercise. But what I realized later on, you know, because the first time that I did it, I was like, okay, let me sit down without any data, any conversations, any basis of nothing, but just what I think it is that they want and write it down in there. When if you have actual real conversations, then you can fill up a real customer avatar sheet right there.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And I'll tell you, when I first started, because everyone else in my mastermind was doing it, I launched, mistakenly so, I launched a group coaching program and it flopped. It totally flopped. At this point, I think I had less than 5 online clients. I remember being in tears and devastated because in my local town, as a personal trainer, nutritionist locally, I kept a booked out roster. I was in high demand. And so when I went online, I thought, why isn't anyone wanting to work with me? You know, I'm launching this program and no one's signing up. Well, at that time, I wasn't even 6 months into doing this online, had very little trust built up with my audience, had very little presence really at that time. And so I went back to the drawing board. And I think another thing too, is that when you have a small audience, your approach has to be slightly different. Because, for example, I have also seen on the flip side, people with 20, 30, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 followers not making 6 figures, to be honest. I see it every day with the masterminds I've been involved in. I've also seen people with the followings like that making millions a year. I will say, though, I felt like I was the underdog from day one, and I had to push those fears down. So if you do have a small following, when you're in a room with women that have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or hundreds and thousands of followers, you almost feel like you're already sinking. You know, it's like, there's no way I'm going to survive this. But I truly pushed those doubts and fears down with I had 800 followers when I started this. And let's just say I have no idea how they were even there because I had no desire of having a business at that point. So it wasn't any strategy behind that for sure. And my pictures were horrible. I just took food pictures and random things. But I will say that you're right. You have to go connect with your audience. When your audience is smaller, you can connect with them. You can reach out to them. You can see what they're interested in, what they need more of from you, and over deliver. I will say that I push out so much free content, masterclasses, trainings, guides, courses, challenges. I've probably done over 15 to 20 things in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
In addition to emailing my list weekly, posting consistently, showing up consistently on stories, and taking those day-to-day, checking those day-to-day to-dos off. So I just want to add in too, once you invest, it doesn't mean you can just step back and quit. Your goal always has to be to deliver free. I know it's hard to believe, thinking, well, if I tell them everything, they're not going to want to work with me. That's not the truth. A lot of people don't know how to piece things together on their own, and they really need your help. I have a great business coach right now that puts out a ton of free content, but I honestly don't have the time or energy to piece all of that free content together. So I hired her to give me the quick roundabout way to get to, hey, I want you in my business and I want you to see things up close and personal to help me. And so I think just keeping all of those things in mind too, as you're going through this, especially if you have a smaller following.
Yeah, absolutely. We resonate so much with what you're saying because we often talk about a concept called the publishing pyramid, right? Like we've mentioned this plenty of times in the show, but there's a phase in this publishing pyramid that we've been able to develop that is resources, right? And sometimes that's finances, resources, like monetary resources, or time, right? So depending on the journey that entrepreneur is, there's going to be different types of resources, right? Sometimes we might have more time than money, right? So then we have the time to maybe figure out these steps, like and the content that we see from the people that we follow, for example, and that can give us that first start to then increase our resources or money, so then we can invest in that coach, in that thing. So kind of like look back and see where are you standing, right? Like if you have the monetary resources, or even if you don't, there's ways to find that money to go invest and grab that momentum and continue to execute, right? And then if there's no way that we cannot come up with that amount of money, then we have to realize that there's people out there that's willing to help us with the content that's out there, and we can do that. So that I think what you're doing is wonderful, because you're helping. I mean, you mentioned it, right? It comes from a place of service. That's it, right? It comes from that spot, and then people can go in, consume, execute, and have success, or they can come to you and hire you for your services, right? Or your coaching or your consulting side of things, right? And I think that's incredible, because now you're helping a ton of more people that before that was not the case, right? So you were, I mean, maybe you were helping a ton of people, but like in just one channel, right? Right now you're present in multiple, and that's wonderful. So as always, Ashley, thank you so much for your comments. I mean, I think this is just a masterclass on how to get there, right? Like and even if you have no followers, I feel like people attach to that number so much. For us, it's the same way. For us, it's very similar journey. I think like on the BIZBROS page, in Instagram, for example, probably like 900 people have been able to follow us, and we're extremely grateful for those. And we do our best for every comment and follower that comes in. We say thank you, and we're like, hey, what resonates? Like, we're constantly learning, having conversations. How can we help you, right? And constantly learning to improve it. Right now we're in this inflection point also on our content side of things, where we're like, okay, what is phase 2, right? Like, we're going to continue with this. This is a great base, but what is next? What can we improve? What can we do better? And that's always a fun journey to be in. So yeah,
absolutely. I'm curious for people right now. I'm trying to put myself on the shoes of somebody that might be listening to the show, right? And they're like, okay, this sounds amazing. I'm extremely passionate about what I do. I love connecting with the people that are following me. I'm creating content on a consistent basis, yet my pockets are still empty, right? How do we transition these people that are engaging with us, these people that are interested into customers, right? Into actual people that want to be part of our tribe, of our group that want to stick with us through thick and thin.
Yeah, you have to tell people where to go. You have to tell them what to do. If you just share content, that's wonderful. You should share a lot of content, freebies, but you have to tell them, do you have an offer? Make sure you list that out. I have X amount of one-on-one spots open. Sign up at the link or apply at the link in my bio. If this message resonates with you, take this action step. That was something that was really hard for me to do. Was I just kind of assumed that with my IG bio and handle and my Facebook presence that, you could tell I had an online business and I was a coach and been doing this for a long time, and that, people would just kind of flock to me. But you have to tell them where to go. I do a great post and I'm like, no one's applying, no one's reaching out to me. And the problem is that I wasn't saying, hey, you need to apply with me if you want to work with me. I have X amount of spots open. You almost think that people would just know that, but I don't think that that's the case at all. So constantly tell your audience where they need to go. And I will say for almost 10 months, with a very small following, if you can imagine, some of my posts, even still to this day, would get 10, 20 likes, 0 comments. You literally feel like you're yelling into outer space and no one's there. But I will tell you, people are always listening and watching you. I cannot tell you how many people show up and say, I've been following you for X amount of times. I've watched every video. I've read every email. They've never commented or even liked my post, but they are my customers. People are always listening. Becoming an entrepreneur has highlighted every strength and weakness that I have. And I will tell you, when you don't see that instant gratification of likes, comments, or people joining your programs or recovering after something is totally flopped that you launched, You have to build thicker skin. So if you lack confidence, it's going to show.
Yep.
And you're going to have to overcome a lot of those weaknesses to continue to push through, because if you're hoping, you're going to put some post up and people are instantly going to sign up to work with you, you really have to be in this with the right mindset.
Yeah.
You have to realize it takes time. Everybody's time length looks very different, but it takes time, and you have to trust the process and know that your efforts will pay off if you keep showing up. But people are always watching, even when you don't think anyone is.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the people are always watching. We were victims of that once, in a good sense, right? Like, we were doing a challenge that we call the 45 Live Challenge, going live on Facebook for 45 days in a row. That was like the first step that we ever took to start posting consistently online. And guess what? No likes, no comments, no nothing. And all of a sudden, somebody came out like, hey guys, I need somebody just like you to work on a project. And that was the biggest contract that we had to date, right? So there's always somebody watching. And I love what you said about tell people what to do. People miss that point a lot, right? Giving the call to actions. And the image that came to mind when you mentioned it, and you might know about this because you have, young daughters. We actually used to work at this soccer franchise where we used to go to daycares and teach kids how to play soccer. And I remember sometimes I was waiting for, the class to go out or the teachers to bring the kids out. And they would bring them with like this, it was like a string with hoops where the kids were walking, grabbing those hoops, right? And they were walk where the teacher would take them. It was kind of funny looking. I was like, wow, that is so smart. And now I'm pretty much envisioning that as us, the entrepreneurs. We are those kindergarten teachers and we are holding that thing. And the people that we want to help are the kids that are holding to the loops, and we're telling them exactly where to go, right? And that you can translate that into that is a customer journey, but is a call to action as well. And I think it's so important, and people miss this point, the point of, hey, tell them what to do next. And if you truly believe, you're truly passionate about what you do, right? And you believe that what you do can actually help them move one step forward, you need to present them an offer. Like,
Yes.
For us, it was, a huge false belief that we had about selling. We have so many, I personally have so many fears around selling. And it got to the point where, the mentor, that person that we invested in the $25,000 once, we were like, he said, if you do not present them with an offer, you're doing them a disservice, right? Mm-hmm. And that just changed everything for me, because I was like, wow, right? Like, I'm not like just taking money away from them. I'm actually helping them. I'm doing this because I believe in what I do so much that I can actually help them move forward. So thank you for bringing that point up. People that are listening right now, grab your pens and put it down. Tell people what to do.
Yes. And show up confidently. I mean, you need to be confident on your sales calls, because here's the thing, you're exactly right. If you are coming from a place of love and passion, and you truly are an expert in what you are offering, it is a disservice to not offer it to people in the world. And the money is just an energy exchange, in my opinion, coming from a very, very scarce background. We lived in scarcity. Yeah. Money was very, we didn't have a lot of money. We would literally go weeks without money. I'd sleep in cars sometimes. Wow. We'd bounce from trailer to trailer. We'd get kicked out of our house. Our power would get shut off. I had to work 3 jobs to get through college, making $5.25 an hour. I remember, one of my raises were 3 pennies is what they gave me, and I just remember, money, I never had a great relationship. And when I first moved my company online, I remember feeling really ashamed and guilty to ask people for money. But then I started to realize that, they were paying me, yes, their money, but in return, I was giving them my expertise and investing my time and energy into helping them accomplish their goals. And once I could see what I was doing and the transformations I was repeatedly creating for my clients, I thought, wow, this is so worth it for them. Mm-hmm. If investing X amount of dollars, even a lot of money, let's say, $25K, $20K, whatever it may be, you will make that back in the future. And so looking at their health, can you put a price tag on health? That's what I've always said. and you can't.
Yeah.
And so realizing that helped me. And I think for a coach, not only do you need to be an expert, but one mistake I'm seeing quite often as well, especially as I've interviewed and I'm hiring co-coaches and things like that now, is that you can have the knowledge, but do you know how to coach? Because you can have X amount of certifications and degrees, but if you don't have coaching skills to get your clients results, it will be hard to build a business.
Absolutely.
Your business is built off of results. And so I see a lot of coaches that have 5, 6 certifications, years of experience, but through watching and hearing about them coaching, it's like, oh, they have very little coaching experience. And that's why I'm so passionate now about taking that educated coach and teaching them how to actually coach their clients and get results, which is what's going to build that sustainable business long term.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is so important. The ability to relay the information in a way that people are not just learning, but taking action.
Yes.
Yeah. Ashley, thank you so much for sharing with us everything in your business, in your journey. It's been such a fresh outtake too, like because we've been there, right? Like, and sometimes we bring people that are, years ahead, maybe sometimes, and I love the impact that you're creating with your community, and the growth that you've experienced in the last 2 years, right?
Yep.
Shifting that perspective, growing, looking at feedback, going back to your service as always, right? And what is the service that I put up front? What is the service that I help my customers with afterwards? I love it. I love it all. So a couple questions to kind of wrap up the show. So one is, what is that one thing that people can do today to get that momentum, right? Think about entrepreneurs, people that might be still on a full-time job, that might be transitioning into their own venture. What is something that they can do today to make sure that they can grab that momentum and keep going?
So step one, and I know you guys probably agree with this, is these days you have to create a social media account. You need to create a Facebook account, an IG account, and also, since we don't own either of those platforms, we need to direct people to our email list. We own our email list. We need to get our clients on our emails. That's the way that we can communicate with them long term. You have to make a presence in the online space on one of those platforms, in my opinion, if you want to have a chance at truly having a way to connect. Everybody's on social media, Facebook, Instagram, but then pull them to your email list. So not only can you communicate and connect via social media, you have the email list to nurture them and build a more intimate relationship with them longer term.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So good. Yeah.
I love that point of driving people to the email. It's so important. We've been trying to practice that lately, a bit more than what we used to before. So we're in the process of learning in there as well. And it's crazy, right? Like, we have this landing page and all of our content tell people go to that page, and we see it daily. New people subscribing to the email list, right? It's what you just said before, right? Tell them what to do. Tell them where to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, so last question. Where will you be if you did not publish?
Well, I would still be working at the gym I was working at. Not happy. I would have lost my job during COVID. I would be unemployed, actually, because all the gyms were closed down. So you didn't have a job if you were a personal trainer or nutritionist. So who knows? I would be either unemployed or I would probably be working very minimal hours at this time, because again, things still aren't back to normal. I'd have big swings, if any income at all. And I'm just happy for all of the scary risk and action steps that I took to be here.
Yes.
Wow, that's exciting. We asked that question, obviously to inspire us first. It's like, man, like, we need to keep going. And also, to show the opportunity to the people that are listening of like, hey, this is, it is something real that can help you move steps forward in your life, in your business. And if they're not doing it, hopefully they get inspired as well to start taking action.
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah. Awesome, Ashley. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'll be going over this, and we're literally telling everybody that has starting that publishing journey and move things along to come check out this episode and go check you out as well, as far as like what you do and what you offer. Where can people find more about you? Where can people go? Where can people click?
Yeah, so I am, we're all about telling people where to go.
Yes.
I am on Instagram, so Ashley_Fillmore1. I'm hanging out there all the time. I live on stories, and I'm also just as equally in Facebook as well. I have a brand new Facebook group for entrepreneurs where I really am going to pull back the curtain, dive deeply into exactly what I've done with a very small following to build a sustainable business.
That's gonna be so
Love
good. Guys, all you gotta do is scroll down and click the link right there, the group link, and all the social media links are gonna be right there in the description, so you guys can go check them out and join Ashley's awesome community.
We're gonna tell you exactly what to do. You're gonna scroll down, you're gonna click each link, and then you're gonna click follow, and then you're gonna click share with all your friends. There we go.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. All right, Fonzie, any last thoughts?
No, I'm just grateful, Ashley. Thank you so much for coming in here today and, sharing about your journey and all the incredible lessons that you learned throughout the journey. It's been great, and I'm sure we'll connect another time, and maybe we'll do an episode live one day.
Yay, I'd love it. I'm so grateful. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Ashley.
Absolutely. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Contents Profit Podcast. Go ahead and subscribe, smash that follow button, and go to social media at BIZBROS Go.
That is right, and if you are inspired to start publishing, please don't forget to share this video as well and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.